Morning has not yet arrived, but the night hasn't fully left either. Between the cold held by stone walls and the faint warmth trapped under old blankets, time stretches quietly in a medieval village where Monday begins not with alarms, but with shadows, where a single drop echoes in a well. A fireplace glows faintly with dying embers, and the first stir of life is not noise, but a slow breath. This is not a day of rushing, but of waiting, a rhythm older than clocks, where cows wait silently in the dark, where a door is still closed but the light creeps in underneath, where a church bell hasn't rung but life has already started moving. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching this from, and what time is it for you? Are we sharing this quiet morning from different corners of the world? If this story calmed your breath, even just a little, leave a like. And if you want to drift through more forgotten mornings like this, consider subscribing so we can explore more silent Mondays, more sleepy sunrises, and maybe even fall asleep together across time. It is not quite night and not yet morning. Somewhere in between, the world holds its breath. This is the hour before anything begins, before footsteps echo, before fire crackles, before even birds remember to sing. Time is not passing. It is resting, like a heavy wool cloak hung upon the shoulders of a stone house. In the center of a forgotten medieval village, tucked between hills and hedges, there stands a well, and in that well, a single drop of water falls. It does not hurry, it does not ripple. It simply lands, softly, deliberately, as if it has all the time in the world. The stone walls of each home still cradle the cold from the night. Their surfaces hold stories older than memory, and their corners are thick with the hush of slumber. You might hear the breath of someone sleeping, long and deep, not just rest, but escape. Above, the roofs hold quiet like bowls hold rain. Nothing stirs, not yet. The morning has not knocked on any door. It has not stepped onto any threshold. It is still stretching behind the mountains, warming its fingers. Inside one house, a fire has long gone out. Only the faintest ember, hidden beneath a cloak of gray ash, remains alive. It glows faintly, like the final beat of a heart before waking. Its warmth is not enough to heat the room, but just enough to remind the room that warmth once existed. In the next room, a hand shifts beneath a thick wool blanket. Fingers curl as if holding something that isn't there, perhaps a dream, or perhaps the last piece of yesterday. No one moves quickly in this hour, not even time. It dozes under the floorboards. It leans against the stones. It waits in the water. And when it moves like breath on glass. The inside of the house has not awakened yet, not truly. What lives within is not silence, but a kind of suspended breath, like the hush before a word, the stillness before a bell. Shadows rest quietly on the wooden beams overhead, where thin lines of soot trace years of forgotten winters. The hearth, once glowing with life, now cradles the ashes of yesterday's fire. A single ember sleeps beneath the gray dust, faint, pulsing, barely holding on. It does not protest the cold, nor welcome the morning. It simply exists, like a memory refusing to fade. The stove's iron sides are cool to the touch, but they whisper of heat, of warmth once held tightly between brick and flame. Above, the chimney exhales the softest ribbon of smoke, light, reluctant, curling through the still air before it vanishes into the sky without a sound. Outside, the world has not yet begun. No footsteps, no roosters, no market carts or tolling bells. Only the sound of old frost settling deeper into the ground and the wind brushing against shut shutters. Inside, under heavy blankets, a small hand stirs. It stretches out, fingers pale and slow, as though reaching for something long gone, warmth, perhaps, or certainty. It touches the edge of morning air and then retreats, disappearing again beneath the wool, as though dreaming was safer than waking. In the corner, A wooden chair creaks, though no one sits in it. Dust lingers, drifting softly in the thin line of light pushing through a crack in the shutter. The light does not move fast. It inches, careful not to disturb the dream-heavy quiet of the room. A pot hangs over the ashes, blackened from years of meals and winters and long-forgotten stews. It swings slightly, moved not by hands but by memory. In this room, time has no direction. Minutes do not tick, they settle. Like the soot above the hearth, like the breath in lungs too sleepy to stir. Somewhere far off, a cow shifts its weight. A bird adjusts its feathers. But here there is only the slow, patient heat left in the ashes. The warmth that does not warm, but reminds that even in the absence of fire, there was once something burning. And beneath every ember, beneath every heavy breath and untouched pot, there is something that waits. Not loudly, not urgently, but faithfully, for the hand to reach again, for the match to strike, for the stove to return to life. And until then, the room remains as it is, still soft, waiting, filled with the ghosts of firelight and the promise that even the coldest mornings begin with something small, something glowing, something left behind in the ashes of yesterday. Before the child wakes, the morning begins in secret. Beneath closed eyelids, threads of golden light flicker like underwater reflections, shy, uncertain, hesitant to settle. The world has not yet called the child's name. Dreams still hum, softly in the corners of his mind, like lullabies echoing from yesterday. And above him, the ceiling waits. The ceiling of the room is not high. It leans slightly, built with old beams that carry the weight of decades and weather. The plaster is uneven, pale, cracked, but to a child still caught between sleep and waking, it is not damaged, it is a sky. And in that sky, the longest crack stretches from the corner of the chimney to the wooden shelf above the hearth. That crack is older than memory, older than the child, older perhaps than even the stories whispered by candlelight. Yet each morning, when the sun returns, it moves. The sunlight does not arrive all at once. It crawls over the edge of the shutter, pushes through the gaps in the wood, filters into the room like smoke. It lands softly on the ceiling, a warm golden blade of stillness, and finds the crack. And then, for a few quiet moments, the crack becomes a stage. Shadows gather gently, shifting with the light's slow advance. The crack grows longer, then shorter, then disappears, then returns, dancing, almost alive. It does not speak, but it tells stories. Of time, of waiting, of a house that does not sleep even when its people do. The child, not yet awake, feels it change in the room's breath. A quiet flutter in the dust, a presence. Outside, the village remains in slumber. No horses move, no carts creak. But inside this room, the day has already begun its silent procession, not with bells, but with beams of light that turn old flaws into familiar landmarks. The child's fingers switch under the blanket. His chest rises in slow rhythm. His breath is soft. But the body remembers what the eyes have not yet opened to see. Every morning, that ceiling crack is the first thing he will notice. Not the fire, not the soup, not the cold stone floor, but the line in the sky above his head. A line that stretches and shifts and waits. A line that tells him the sun has returned, that the day is beginning, that his small place in the world is still here, held gently beneath wood and dust and shadow. And perhaps, long ago, someone else watched the same crack. Perhaps another child, now grown, now gone, once followed that same line with sleepy eyes. Perhaps these ceiling stories are passed down like lullabies, unspoken, unwritten, but always there. In the way the light changes, in the way a crack can become a path, the house breathes. The floor groans, the blanket rustles, the shadow shifts again. The child stirs, and before the world truly wakes, before the names are called and the chores begin, before footsteps and firewood and prayer, there is this moment. A moment held entirely in shadow and dust and light. A moment when nothing moves, except the sun and the ceiling and the thoughts that bloom behind closed eyes. The doors are still closed. All across the village, from stone cottages to leaning wooden sheds, no latch has been lifted, no hinges creaked. Yet morning does not wait for ceremony. It arrives quietly, not with fanfare, but with a thin, hesitant light, the kind that slips between cracks without asking permission. Through the narrow sliver at the base of the door, where the wood no longer quite touches the floor, it begins. A faint thread of pale gold, wrapped in dust and breath, crawling forward as if unsure of its welcome. It mingles with the worn lines of the stone threshold, meets old bootprints and stray bits of hay, and stretches toward the center of the room. Like a whispered intention, the room itself is still asleep. Shadows gather in the corners, soft and full-bodied. The air is cool, tinged with the earthy scent of yesterday's fire. But that single band of light, so weak, so soft, touches everything with a kind of quiet authority. It does not warm. It does not wake. It simply exists, and in doing so, reminds the world that time is still moving forward. Somewhere, beneath the wooden table, a small rustle. The soft scritch of tiny feet, a mouse perhaps emerging from behind the stone oven. It pauses, as if aware that it is too early even for mischief, and then vanishes again, swallowed by the silence. A moment later, from near the hearth, a long, exaggerated sigh, the kind only an old dog can give. Stretched out on the still cool floor, it blinks once, then twice, then settles again. Not yet. Above, the ceiling beams hold their breath. The air is filled with stillness, yet that light, so thin it could be mistaken for a trick of the eye, continues its path. Dust dances in it, tiny golden specks drifting lazily like embers in reverse. Each particle catching the faint glow as if rehearsing for the sun's eventual arrival. From a cot in the corner, the rise and fall of breath, not quite awake, not quite asleep. The kind of breath that belongs to someone listening without knowing what they're waiting for. The light finds the edge of the blanket, traces its way up a worn woolen fold, and disappears again. It does not need to stay long. Its work is subtle. It simply signals that the day is no longer just a promise. It has begun, whether or not anyone has noticed. Out in the village, other doorways begin their quiet awakening. A rope creaks on a pulley. A chicken shifts on its perch. A woman stirs in her bed and pulls the blanket tighter, just for a moment longer. The light creeps forward across thresholds, as if reminding every home, the world is here. It's not loud, it's not in a hurry, but it's coming, and yet there is no rush. The morning, like all things in this village, unfolds slowly. One sigh at a time, one stretch, one breath. The crack in the door remains just that, a crack, but it holds the entire sky beyond it, not in color or heat, but in certainty. In the unspoken knowledge that behind every closed door, life is merely paused, not ended. In time, someone will rise. Someone will open that door, and the full light of morning will tumble inside like water spilled from a basin. But for now, this is enough. A narrow slit of pale, dusty light. A mouse. A sigh. The breath of a house still dreaming. Because sometimes the world does not need to shout its return. Sometimes it whispers through a door left barely ajar. The barn is dark. Not the kind of darkness that frightens, but the thick, slow-moving kind that feels like an old wool coat draped over everything. The beams above are hidden, swallowed by shadow. The straw on the floor is only a texture underfoot, barely visible. But inside this darkness, life breathes, slow, steady, and silent. The cows do not need light to know what time it is. They do not wear clocks on their hooves, but their bodies remember. Somewhere deep in muscle and memory, they feel the morning coming. It moves through their bones the way water moves underground, unseen, but inevitable. One stands, her back gently curved, steam rising faintly from her hide into the cool air. Another remains lying down, her flank rising and falling with long, calm breaths. Their ears twitch at sounds that haven't arrived yet. Their eyes, large and dark, reflect what little light slips through the cracks in the wooden walls. Not enough to see by, just enough to sense. A single cow moves. Not far, just a shift. Her front leg folds beneath her, then stretches. She lowers her head and pushes her nose across the straw. Slowly, gently, as if searching for something that might have been left behind in the night. A dropped piece of hay, a scent from yesterday, or perhaps just the comfort of routine. Her breath brushes the floor like a low wind, and her nostrils widen, drawing in the scent of dust and sleep. No footsteps yet. No voices, no creak of the door or clatter of a pail. But they know it will come. Morning always comes. And with it, the hands that bring grain, the rough strokes along their sides, the soft commands spoken half out of habit, half out of affection. In the stillness, the barn seems to hold its breath. The animals do the same, not in fear, but in waiting. This is not impatience. It is not even expectation. It is simply what is, a knowing that spans centuries and species, that before the sun is even visible, something stirs. Somewhere beyond the walls, someone is lighting a small fire, pulling on heavy boots, wrapping a shawl around their shoulders. Outside, the sky is softening. Not yet bright, but no longer entirely black. A dove coos once from the edge of the roof. A rustle comes from the hayloft, faint and small. Perhaps a mouse, perhaps nothing at all. The cows do not react. They've heard it all before. A tail swishes once. Another cow shifts her weight from one leg to another. Steam still rises, slow and silver in the air. In this barn, there is no urgency. Only the slow rhythm of breath and the almost ceremonial quiet before the day begins. Then, the smallest sound. A latch, faint and deliberate. Their ears tilt forward. The door has not yet opened, but it will. The hay will rustle differently. Boots will press into straw. Voices not loud, but familiar will fill the air. But for now, this is a sacred pause. A breath between night and light. A moment where animals with no words and no clocks feel the day arriving before the day has spoken, and the cows wait, not because they are told to, but because they know. The bell has not yet rung. It waits in the tower, heavy, silent, suspended in shadow. Its rope hangs still, barely swaying in the early draft of morning. The stone belfry is cold. The metal is cold, but the village is already waking. Square is not yet busy, not yet noisy. There are no carts rattling over cobblestones, no laughter, no market shouts. But movement begins, not with a rush, but with a rhythm. As if someone, somewhere, had opened a door inside time and let the morning leak through. A man bends low with a bundle of wood in his arms. The logs are not fresh. Their bark is pale, stripped smooth by handling. He does not hurry. 1 foot in, front of the other. His breath makes little clouds, fading before they reach his shoulders. At the stone well, a woman leans forward. The bucket descends slowly, the rope whispering against the edge. The splash below echoes faintly, not loud, but deep. She waits as if listening. The water does not resist. It rises willingly. She pulls it up in steady pulls, arms used to the motion. A child in a thick wool tunic peers from behind a shutter. Not fully awake, not fully hidden. His eyes squint at the pale sky. He sees a cat walk the low wall, its tail held like a banner. Somewhere, a rooster calls once, then silence. Nothing speaks loudly here. Even the dogs stretch in silence. One curls tighter by the stable door. Another lifts its nose, sniffs the air, then lowers its head again. They are not needed yet. The stones beneath the villagers' feet remember thousands of such mornings. The same patterns, the same slow pace. It is not tradition. It is not obligation. It is simply the way things unfold, with a patience older than any one person, older than the bell itself. There's comfort in this slowness, in the fact that no one commands the morning to begin. It begins anyway. It has always begun this way. One step, one breath, one quiet task after another. Farther away, smoke begins to climb from the first chimney. It bends gently, shaped by a breeze too small to feel. The chimney is cracked. The smoke is familiar. It smells of wet wood, old ash, and something else, something homemade, something ordinary. The baker isn't out yet, but his oven is. The scent is faint, but there. Warm flour, yeast, memory. Still. The bell has not moved. It waits for the final moment, when enough people are awake, when enough feet have touched the ground, when the village has remembered itself again. But right now, this is the space in between. The space before the call. The breath before the note. And it is beautiful, because once the bell rings, the pace will shift. Not into chaos, but into certainty. The rhythm will change. Children will be dressed. Doors will be opened wide. Tools will be lifted. Names will be called. But before all of that, there is this. The man adjusting the wood on his back. The woman tipping the bucket into a clay jug. The cat leaping from one wall to another. The boy watching with half-closed eyes. The world not fully lit, not fully asleep. And up in the tower, the bell waiting to speak, but not yet. The hearth breathes again. A slow flicker of flame curls upward from a bed of stubborn embers. The first spark did not come easily, it rarely does. But now the fire licks the iron sides of the pot above it, and warmth begins to stretch its limbs through the little house. The air no longer bites at the fingertips. It softens. From the simmering pot rises a whisper, a slow rolling sound of water coming to life. It pops gently, one bubble at a time, like small secrets being released. The soup within is simple, grains, a bone, maybe a sliver of vegetable saved from the week before, but it is enough. It is warm, it is familiar. Outside, the world still yawns. But inside, the house has begun to glow. The wooden table is uneven, marked by years of elbows, of knives, of prayers said in silence. A mother moves gently about the space, never rushing. Her feet know the boards that creak. Her hands move, without noise. She places bowls, earthen, worn smooth, at each place, their rims chipped with memory. The steam rises higher now. It curls in the air like a veil, winding its way to the beams above. Dust motes catch it, dancing briefly in a golden column of light that falls through the shutters. The window is still fogged. A trace of last night's frost lingers there, like a forgotten sigh. In the corner, a little girl sits on a stool, still in her nightdress. She is half asleep, but her mother's fingers comb gently through her hair. Slow strokes, no words, only the crackle of the fire, the hum of the bubbling soup, and the weightless hush of morning. The girl does not move. She leans into the warmth, into the rhythm, into the quiet. Outside, a rooster calls again, more certain this time. A few footsteps past the door, a cough, a knock of wood on stone. But inside, this small world continues untouched. A spoon clinks softly against the pot. The soup is ladled slowly, not just to serve, but to warm the bowl itself. The mother places it down, adjusts it slightly. It matters. These things always matter. Another bowl. Another portion. The house smells now of steam and salt, of something ancient and comforting. The kind of smell that belongs not to one recipe, but to the very idea of morning. The girl opens her eyes, just a little. She watches the soup steam curl from her bowl. She does not yet eat. She only watches. In the misty air, Her breath joins the warmth. For a moment, it's hard to tell where. One ends and the other begins. There's no rush. This is the moment before the day begins in earnest. Before lessons, before chores, before duties, the mother sits down at last. Not heavily, not wearily. Just, finally. She places her hands around her own bowl, and she exhales. Her breath joins the others. 3 bowls, 3 kinds of silence. The house is still small, still dark at the corners, but something in it has opened. The fire has made space. The soup has made memory. And the steam carries it all upward, as if lifting the weight of what's to come, because every day begins like this. Not with a bang, but with a bubble, a brush of hair, a bowl held close, a warmth shared without words. And outside, the sun has just begun to stretch. The door remains closed. Inside the house, everything has been done. The fire tended, the bowls emptied, the hair brushed, the floor swept. The morning has unfolded in its familiar pattern, as quiet and precise as breath. And now, only one thing remains. Leaving. But no one leaves right away. There is a moment, always a moment, when the day hesitates. The shoes sit by the door. Leather worn smooth, laces tied and untied 100 times. They are not special. They do not shine. But they wait with a kind of patient memory, carrying the weight of every step already taken. He stands before them in silence. A boy, not quite tall, not quite small. Hands at his sides, not fidgeting, not folding. Just still. His breath is slow, and his eyes are soft, the way they are when thoughts move gently, not urgently. Behind him, the house breathes. The warmth of soup still lingers in the walls. The hush of morning chores rests in the corners. A chair creaks. Once, somewhere far off, a dog barks, not loud, just a reminder that the world is waking. He bends down, not quickly, one shoe at a time. A tug, a twist, a press of the heel, but before he stands, he pauses. The laces are not yet tied. His fingers rest on his knee. He looks toward the door, not at it, through it, as if he could see the road beyond, the trees, the sky, as if he were measuring something invisible, the weight of the day, the length of his thoughts, the space between what has been and what will come. It is quiet, but it is not empty. His mother watches from across the room. She doesn't speak. She doesn't move. She has seen this moment before, the pause before the threshold, the space between the inside and the out. It is sacred in its way, a kind of prayer. Because no one knows how the day will go. It could rain. There could be laughter, or scraped knees, or arguments at the well. There might be firewood to carry, or a calf to chase, or a friend with a story to share, or silence. Long, heavy silence, but for now, nothing has begun. Only the pause, only the shoes. Only the minute before everything. He ties the first lace, then the second, tighter than needed, not because he's afraid, but because he wants to feel the day in his step, wants to know it's real. The door creaks as he pulls it open. Light enters like water through a crack in stone. It stretches across the floorboards, touches the shoes, reaches for the hearth. He doesn't step out yet. Just stands in the doorway. One breath. Then another. His shadow falls outside, but his heartbeat is still indoors. The morning holds its breath. One last time. And then, not with noise, not with fanfare, he takes a step. Just one. The day has begun. It is Monday, but in this village, even Mondays begin gently. The air is still cool. Not cold, just enough to wrap the skin in a soft hush. The sun has risen, but only halfway. Its light glows like warm milk over the cobbled stones. In the feu square, a table appears. No one sees it arrive. No wheels creaked, no voices called out. Yet there it is, 4 wooden legs, slightly uneven, topped with a cloth the color of hay. The first market stall. The baker places 3 loaves of bread. On the table, round, golden, slightly cracked. Steam does not rise from them anymore. But if you hold your hand close, you can feel a whisper of warmth, like a memory that hasn't faded yet. Next to the loaves, a bundle of herbs, still wet from morning dew, tied together with string, not tightly. Thyme, marjoram, maybe a little sage. Their scent blends into the cold air, softening its edges. An old man arrives. He doesn't walk quickly. His shoes are dusty, and his coat is too large for him now, but his steps are steady. And he nods at the baker, not a greeting of surprise. Just the same nod he's given every Monday for 30 years. They say nothing. There is no need. The man picks up a loaf, weighs it in his hands, then puts it down again. He doesn't want to buy yet. Not really. He just wants to feel its weight. To be reminded that something solid still exists in this soft, unraveling world. Another figure appears. A woman this time. Hair wrapped in a faded cloth. Fingers red. From cold water and years of scrubbing. She carries a basket with nothing in it, yet it swings from her wrist as if already full. She smiles at the old man. He nods again. And in this tiny triangle, man, woman, the week quietly begins. Behind them, the village continues to wake. A chicken runs across the road, its feet tapping like small drums. Somewhere, a baby cries, not loud, not desperate, just announcing its presence. A door opens with a long, tired groan. But here, in the square, the rhythm is older. Another villager stops by. They do not all buy. Some ask the price. Some ask the weather. Some say nothing at all. They just stand near the table, eyes resting on the loaves, breathing in the scent of herbs. No one rushes. No one argues. This is not the city, with noise and golden bargains. This is the village where even buying bread feels like sharing a secret. One old woman reaches out and touches the herbs, eyes closed. She doesn't take them. She just touches, maybe to remember her own garden, or someone else's, or a time when her hands were not so dry. The bell in the chapel hasn't rung yet, but already the market has begun. Not with shouting, not with coins clattering, but with presence, with breath, with nods. The kind of market where even silence can be sold, if someone needs it. And when the bread is gone, and the herbs have wilted, and the cloth is folded again, no one will say, "It is over." They will just say, "It was enough." Because in a world where everything hurries, this stall doesn't. It waits, like bread cooling on a windowsill. Like Monday morning warming slowly into life. The sun has risen, but it does not command. Its light spreads like butter on old bread, soft, uneven, golden in places, pale in others. The village does not leap into motion. It unfolds. Slowly, like a sheet being pulled back one corner at a time. No bells ring, no cocks crow. Time here is still sleepy. If it walks, it does so barefoot. In one house, someone is sweeping, but the broom barely whispers against the floor. In another, someone is combing hair, not their own, but a child's. Each stroke is slow, as if the morning could be stretched out just by being gentle. A pot simmers, but nothing boils. A dog yawns and moves from one patch of sun to another. Somewhere, a cart creaks, but it does not hurry. It waits between each wheel turn, as though choosing its path one breath at a time. There are people on the roads, but none of them are going anywhere. They walk because it is morning, because the light has changed, because their feet, like old habits, still remember the way. Two neighbors exchange a word, not a greeting. Not a story, just a word, shared like bread. A boy skips a stone across a pond. It sinks quickly, but he does not mind. The splash is soft. It belongs to the day. On a hill above the village, an old woman watches. She used to bake, then she used to mend. Now she just sits, wrapped in a shawl, eyes half closed. Her cat curls. Around her feet, purring with the rhythm of the wind. Below her, smoke rises from chimneys like old letters. Each curl a sentence never sent. The trees move, but not because of wind. They move like sleepers shifting in a dream. Quietly, thoughtfully. The chapel is open, but no one is inside. The candles are unlit. The pews hold no weight. And still, the silence there is not empty, it listens. Because on Mondays in this village, even silence has a purpose. In the field, someone bends to touch the earth. They do not dig. They do not plant. They just press their hand against the soil. Maybe remembering, maybe thanking. A baby coughs. A rooster calls once, as if remembering it should, then changes its mind. A girl walks past the well and runs her hand along the stones. She doesn't draw water. She just wants to feel the rough coolness, the morning still inside them. A man repairs a fence, one nail at a time, then he stops. Looks up, looks around, then begins again, not because he must, just because the day allows it. This Monday is not loud, not busy, but it is full of pauses, full of eyes that see, without looking, of hands that move because they remember how, of hearts that beat with the pace of warm dust settling on wood. When the sun is finally overhead, nothing is finished. The bread has not all been eaten. The fence is not complete. The prayers have not been said, but no one is behind. Because in this place, time is not a river. It is a pool, still, deep, and wide enough for everyone to float. Monday in the shadow. Not lost, not forgotten, just unhurried. Just enough